What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Week 6 edition of the Pro Football Focus Fantasy Show here on RotoGrinders. I am Brit Devine, joined by my man, Mr. Ian Hartitz from Pro Football Focus. Ian, this is another. We're all going to play the same cash game in DFS, at least on Draftkings.com this week. But we've got some nice bets. We've got a little bit of GPP talk to make it interesting this week.
Yeah, it was, we have our little show sheet here, Brett. We come prepared each and every week, with everything we're going to talk about. And I don't think I've ever had a quicker time getting through the suggested cash game show out here. So we'll see what happens though with some of these injuries. Still a few things in the air that obviously we need to monitor. But you said it, man. There is some chalk out there on the main slate. Should make for a fun tournament discussion, though.
We're all going to hold hands and finish our way to the 50th percentile finish together and just pay the rake to the fantasy sites this week. But before we get into all of that, there are plenty of other ways to make money, whether it's sports betting, tournaments. I mean, you could still make money playing cash games and all that fun stuff. But the way we sort of get to all of that is looking through Ian's article over at Pro Football Focus, the Mismatch manifesto. Did you tweet out everything? Did I miss the tweet storm of it earlier in the week? I know you usually do that.
Yeah. Check. It's just a thread now. I'm in the thread game, Britt. I do threads from time to time.
Say what? There, Ian?
Yeah, we good.
All right. So you can go check this out on Ian's Twitter, or you can just tune into the show or listen to it. We go over some of the major mismatches on offensive and defense. And we like to start with explosive play rate, both in the pass game and the run game. We want our quarterbacks and wide receivers to get big chunk plays. We want our running backs running free downfield, dancing into the end zone. What are some spots we can look at that for this week, Ian?
Patriots passing game looking really good just in terms of their ability to create some big plays. I know they haven't had a ton of volume, but they're going up against the Browns defense that, while overall they're pretty good, we have seen them, blow a coverage or two almost every week this season. So healthy Jacoby Myers would be the way to go there. Also, don't sleep on Hunter Henry if Jonnu Smith is again sidelined. Also, 49ers looking good against the Falcons. I think what we're going to see here, Britt, is AJ Terrell track Brandon Ayuk on the outside. Usually defenses choose to shadow Ayuk instead of Deebo Samuel because Ayuk plays a traditional wide receiver position. Deebo's the one going the backfield, moving all over the formation. So with that in mind, I do think we could see either Deebo or especially George Kittle really finally get one of those boom weeks going. This is a bottom three defense against tight ends in almost any metric you want to look at. I really do think this could finally be George Kittle week. On the other side of things, Giants, Rams, Steelers not set up too well to throw the football. It'd be nice to think that, they could finally get on track. And by that, I mean the Los Angeles Rams. Just, again, a bottom, not even just kind of bad, just literally one of the worst offenses in the league. It's been so terrible for everyone there except Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee. It's not the biggest get right spot in the world, man. The Carolina, as much as people are saying, "I'll tear it down, trade away all your good players." I don't know, man. If they had a quarterback, which they clearly don't, but if they did, I don't think we'd be looking at that terrible of a team either way. So the only thing I'm kind of looking for in Los Angeles, you can kind of see it in here, their run game isn't set up too bad. So I do wonder, Britt, not great with Cam Akers or Darrell Henderson. I get it. Not great with everyone in this offense. But if we just remove that and we said, hey, we got a running back who had 100% of his backfield's carries last week. He's a home 10-point favorite. Maybe we'd be a little bit more into Cam Akers than otherwise, but more on him in a bit.
Yep. Let's go to scroll down the article just a little bit more. Let's look at pace. We want lots of snaps, both if we're sports betting or in DFS. See a couple of games, Buffalo at KC. We'll talk about that one. At least I will from a sports betting perspective in a little bit. Looks like the high pace games aren't really on the main slate. So maybe touch on what are we looking at and what are some slow pace games that might be a little under the radar that we might want to avoid potentially.
Yeah, Dallas, Philly, Denver, and the Chargers. Obviously, Sunday and Monday Night Football. Those are the other ones popping. To an extent, we do have the Jaguars and Colts, but both of those offenses have been pretty tough to overly trust this year. On the other side of things, though, Bengals and Saints, as well as the Jets and Packers standing out as those that might just not have the overall play volume we're looking for. And Cincy, it is interesting because it is just one of these offenses that keeps leaving us wanting for more. And I do think while, one of Joe Mixon or Jamar Chase awfully due in this one, not hopefully, because I wish the guy was out there, healthy and playing. But if T. Higgins is going to be ruled out and completely out of the picture, that could do well to help condense this volume in Cincinnati and not have to worry about the overall play volume quite as much.
Got to ban that cover two shell in the NFL, right? So we can have Jamar Chase be great again. It's holding them back, that Cincinnati offense right now. All right, let's go to pressure rate. Any clean pockets, any quarterbacks we might want to stay away from that might be getting harassed just a little bit too much?
Yeah, look all that blue on the away side of things. Joey Burrow, Tom Brady, Jimmy Garoppolo, and PJ Walker himself all set up pretty well from the pocket. Obviously not really thinking about going to the well with PJ Walker, but I do think, man, especially in tournaments, I know we're trying to get up to Josh Allen's and Lamar Jacksons of the world, but we've seen Tom Brady throw the football 52 times in back-to-back weeks. And they have all their wide receivers healthy, which they pretty much are right now. Julio's still up and down. We'll talk about Chris Godwin and his snaps a little bit later, but Godwin's out there. Mike Evans is fine. Russell Gage is fine. You got Rashad White and Leonard Fournette doing their things. Cameron Brate should be back. This is going to be one of the more pass-heavy offenses in the entire league when they have these guys healthy, which they mostly do right now. So I do love Tom Brady and some of those receivers in tournaments. On the other side of things, we saw some of that pressure get to Justin Fields last night, and it's also going to be there again for Matthew Stafford. PFF's 31st ranked offensive line in terms of team pass blocking grade. I do think the Panthers at, I believe, 2,400 are a more than viable DST. We want to throw that in the cash game and save as much money as possible.
If the Rams didn't have Cooper Kupp, replace Cooper Kupp with like a league average wide receiver, I don't know, your favorite, whichever one that is. I mean, this offense is in big trouble this year. That offensive line is not doing anything for them. Yeah, I said league average. That might be
easy.
All right, let's get down a little farther on Ian's article. Yards before contact. We want our running backs running as long as they can before getting touched by defenders, and we don't want them getting stuffed at the line. It looks like Lamar Jackson, also possibly J.K. Dobbins against the Giants, look like a pretty juicy one. We've got Kenneth Walker, possibly, DFS darling this week, going to be running free against Arizona. What else is really standing out?
Kamara and I guess Taysom Hill. Also, we got to talk about him looking pretty good against the Bengals this week. And then also, the Browns running backs per usual as well. But yeah, both sides in that Seattle-Arizona game are looking pretty good. It is going to be chalky to play both Kenneth Walker and Benjamin. And I know just, historically correlated between two running backs on facing each other on the opposite teams. Maybe not setting yourself up for the complete highest, tournament winning score, but it's just going to be tough to get off of either of these guys. Both offenses have that scoring upside, and both defenses haven't shown much of an ability to stop anything this year. So happy to eat that chalk in cash games. And yeah, with the Ravens, man, now it's unfortunate J.K. Dobbins isn't getting overly featured, but we saw him score 2 touchdowns a couple of weeks ago, man. It would make sense if we see him just starting to inch and crawl a little bit more to his future workload as the days go on. That fraud Aaron Judge struck out again. I freaking love watching that dude fail. Sorry. But anyway, yeah. And then some of the running backs that aren't set up quite as well. Colts, Jaguars, Chiefs really standing out. I will say with the Chiefs, we'll talk more about this later. If we just want to look at that matchup, which, highest pace, highest game total, a ton of things going right here for both offenses, obviously. I mean, hell, 70 points could be scored in this game. Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Devin Singletary seem to be the lowest owned guys available. Now, whether or not we really want to mess around at all with those run games, we can talk about that too. But while it might not be efficient for CEH on the ground, I do think that anytime we're in that sort of high scoring offense, tough to completely dismiss the player.
You mentioned Taysom Hill. I'm going to throw this at you cold. If you had to set a fantasy point line for him, think DraftKings scoring, what would it be as a over-under?
Like 9.5 probably.
It's 3 on Prize Picks.
Whoa.
So that I've put some money on that this week. If you're on Prize Picks, that is one that I do like. I don't know if it's a trap or if it's like just too good to be true, but I think that's a pretty juicy.
It's so tough to rank them, but you start going through the, because I still got my season long rankings over at PFF.com and all this, and
you're on the grind.
Of course, but it's always tough, like to rank. At least this week, it's tough to rank more than 12 or 13 tight ends ahead of the guy, because at a certain point you run out of every down tight ends, and then it's like, okay, do I want this Mo Alley Cox type guy or Taysom Hill, where I know he's not playing many snaps, but the snaps he plays, he's getting the ball.
Yep. All right, let's close this out. Let's look at, actually, there's a couple other ones here. Let's look at combined yards per drop back. Quarterbacks chucking the ball down the field. What are some spots for that this week?
Dolphins, obviously with Skylar Thompson, you got to take it with a little bit more grain of salt than usual, but Seahawks looking good as always. Let's just get some clarity on that Tyler Lockett injury. I hate midweek additions to the injury report, especially when it's a soft tissue thing like a hamstring, but as we've seen Lockett in the past, pretty tough to get that dude off the field with any sort of injury. Also, Minnesota Vikings looking really good this week. Again, my 2 favorite, I think, GPP passing games to get a little bit contrarian and go a separate way with are going to be the Vikings and Buccaneers this week, and both are showing up pretty good here. On the other side of things, Steelers, Falcons, and Giants just not looking good. I'm not sure if we're going to get Kyle Pitts or Drake London actually emerging as a consistently high-end, viable fantasy performer. Thanks a lot, Arthur Smith and Marcus Mariota, but it is what it is. I'm slightly more optimistic on Kenny Pickett moving forward. I just don't know if it's going to be this week. Tampa Bay legitimately, when they're not playing Patrick Mahomes, has looked like one of the better defenses in the league. So we'll probably wait just a little bit longer to really go all in on any of those Pittsburgh wide receivers.
All right, the EPA per play. Any takeaways on this? Sometimes from a sports betting angle, I was reading the show sheet, and it looks like we had some either close calls or some hits last week. How did that turn out?
It was doing a good job. It called the Giants upset. It got the Cowboys upset. And, the Browns, Commanders, and Bengals also kind of had us on, where I believe they were mostly able to cover those lines. And those games did all each go down to, some of those final plays. So this week, just the offenses that are underdogs, but they seem to have a relative advantage to the offense they're facing. The Giants at +6, Jaguars +2, Patriots +2.5, Jets +7, and Broncos +4.5. So we're about to talk about it, Britt. That Packers-Jets matchup is interesting because if you do look at the Jets, their defense has been playing pretty damn well all year long. Zach Wilson, early returns have actually been pretty great. Mainstream media doesn't want to talk about it, but Zach Wilson is out here actually being pretty efficient with his limited opportunities. We got Breece Hall in the running game doing big things. So, we're about to get into it. I still tend to just lean towards Aaron Rodgers and Lambeau because it's Aaron Rodgers and freaking Lambeau against the New York Jets. But a lot of these metrics are saying that the Jets could make this a tighter game than that spread suggests.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to get into a fist fight over this because it's not like I'm not going down with the ship with the Jets this week, but we'll get to it in some sports betting chatter in just a little bit. That was a recap of Ian's Mismatch manifesto. You can read that over at Pro Football Focus. It does require a subscription, but there are also a million other things to read at Pro Football Focus, along with things like overall team grades. I use that a lot, wide receiver cornerback matchup, stuff like that. Really great information source over at Pro Football Focus if you are looking to step up your DFS/betting game. Speaking of betting, let's get into my favorite part of the show. Doing pretty good so far this season. I think last season we started off real slow, and I think we grinded our way to basically 50-50 by the end of the year. Mm-hmm. This season, we're doing pretty good at the start here based on what we're tracking. I'm 5-2-3 on my spread picks over-unders, and my props that I've put on the show so far this year are 8-4. I'm going to start off. I'm going back to the well on betting against Arizona in the first half. I've got Seattle +1 in the first half as one of my bigger bets of the week. Played out last week. We saw the Eagles were just able to sneak out the 3.5 point. I think they were up by 4 at halftime over the Cardinals, and the Cardinals, they have just over 5 points per game in the first half of games this year. Seattle's at 16. I don't know if it's Cliff Kingsbury. I don't know if it's Kyler Murray. I don't know if it's Call of Duty. I don't know what it is, but Arizona has just been so slow out of the gate. I'm going to keep riding this trend until I see it break probably multiple games in a row. I think Seattle could possibly win this game. I know in your EPA per play, it looks pretty close here. It does have Arizona as a slight favorite. But I don't know. I think this Geno Smith, PFF's #1 rated quarterback, I don't know how that's working out, but he's got to be playing good to be PFF's #1 rated quarterback.
Bro, look at any stat. Look at QB rating. He's #1. Look at yards per attempt. He's top 5. That's, man, I know you're not slandering our lovely PFF grades.
No, not at all.
That is my thing with it. Like, and I don't think people should necessarily only trot out a PFF grade and say, hey, look at this one thing that it tells you the entire story about it. But like, we'll get hate on like an offensive lineman's grade. And it's like, all right, show me the other stats that are out there proving your point. Like, I don't want you comparing these against perfection. Let's have a conversation about the right stats. And Geno, in this case, has been right in freaking all of them. Love the Seattle offense.
Yeah, and I love how he's dissing the beat writers or the reporters. Oh, you never seen me throw before, because he knows he's got it going on right now. And what a steal for the Seahawks right now in this trade to dish out Russell Wilson. They got to upgrade a quarterback and a billion picks as it stands right now.
Geno was good last year too, man. It was a limited sample size, but really he hasn't played for a long time. He was a backup, and then they benched Eli Manning for him, and people scoffed at it, even though Geno went out there and probably deserved to be playing over that version of Eli at that point in time. So, well, what a time to be alive. Geno Smith, man.
All right, so Seattle +1/2, and the reverse is also true. So you can live bet that at halftime. You can take Arizona for whatever at second half, because Seattle is a horrible second half team and Arizona is basically the best in the league. So flip that on its flip the script on that at halftime. My other bet is the Bills Chiefs over 53.5. And I know unders are king this year in the NFL, Ian, but this game's going over. I mean, I know the Bills defense can be pretty stingy, but it's Patrick Mahomes. And then you have Josh Allen with a healthy offense going into Kansas City. And we saw, what did that Raiders Chiefs game? That had well over 53.5. I don't know. Call me crazy. I don't know if the Bills can get 53.5 in themselves. They get 38. They can get 42. The Chiefs can keep up. It's Patrick Mahomes. I've got the over. It's going against the trend of unders this year. But that is one of my other bets. I have not put that on scores and odds yet. That will be up after the show. I was looking through our scores and odds. You're not on it, Ian, but we have a pick for every game except the Bills and Chiefs game. So I don't know what's going on here. It's the game we all want to play. I'm going to throw the over on there for everybody. You guys will get it ahead of time. Those are a couple bets I'm looking at in terms of either spreads or over-unders. What are you looking at this weekend?
I'm with you on KC Buffalo over 53.5. Just like either of these quarterbacks, if you put them behind the 8 ball, I mean, I'm so confident in their ability to keep on moving up and down the field. So with it there, my favorite spread of the week is just going to be the Eagles -6, or if it's up to 6.5, then, still I'm cool with either. I just think with this Cowboys team, we've seen them really get to face some struggling offenses, and just really the best part of their team is obviously that Michael Parsons and the Marcus Lawrence pass rush. And yeah, they've been able to just tee off on teams like the Bengals, like the Rams, or that offensive line really is their kryptonite. We haven't seen this offense with Cooper Rush actually have to try to be in the scoring points business, put their foot on the gas or anything like that. So Sunday night against what has been the best team in the NFL so far, I just think, this is going to be a touchdown plus one here for the Eagles, especially if Parsons really is going to be at less than 100% with that groin injury. So that in mind, last week, Britt lost a teaser before 1 p.m. kickoff even happened. Never a good feeling there. I was laying in bed watching it on my phone, just not exactly loving life, but we got through the rest of the day, of course. But I'm coming back with another 4-team teaser this week. You can bet 100 to win 300. I'm taking the Packers over the Jets. You can get that down from 7.5 to 1.5. The Ravens over the Giants, 5.5 to 0.5 points. 49ers over the Falcons, -5.5 to +1. And again, the Eagles over the Cowboys, get that down to either a pick 'em or a 0.5 point favor. So we're getting, we're getting down a number basically, which is always what I want to see with these teasers. So getting on to the right side of it. And again, I just think in these matchups, look at the quarterbacks, man. Aaron Rodgers over Zach Wilson, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, you just talked up Zach Wilson.
Daniel Jones. I know, but it's Aaron Rodgers. It's Aaron Rodgers. That's my point here. So it's enough of a disparity that I think it's pretty clear cut. So we'll see. The Falcons have stayed feisty, but again, I think the 49ers can at least win that game with, the league's best defense so far, especially if Nick Bosa is going to be good to go. I saw he was listed as questionable. So Packers, Ravens, 49ers, Eagles. Let's get this teaser back on the right track.
All right. I had already bet the Eagles, so I'm on board with that one. I have stayed away from the Baltimore game. I bet the Niners, and I have the opposite side of you. I bet the Jets +7.5, and I sprinkled the money line on that one. I don't know. The Giants you're seeing the value of coaching in the NFL with the Giants right now. So with Brian Dabble going over there and really, really being able to coach up that Giants team. Now, I don't know if the Jets are going to be able to do it, but I don't know. I'm not sold on the Packers. Aaron Rodgers, where is he on PFF? I didn't look it up, but he can't be up there very high this year.
No, I mean, I'm not sold on the Giants. Yeah, that was a fun win over the Packers, but we also, look,
I'm not sold on the Giants.
We were completely riding that off. I mean, you look at their wins this year. Okay, Titans, Panthers, Bears, and now the Packers. So yeah, 4-1. A win is a win is a win. And as Bill Parcells used to say, you are what your record says you are. But man, I really question if they can keep up with Lamar.
We'll see. That is one I could definitely be very wrong on this week. But it is just in full disclosure. What I'm on. Let's go to some props. I'll throw. You got to know by now. I'm coming at you with a kicker prop. So I've got the Evan McPherson. This is the first time in 13 games Evan McPherson did not get over 1.5 field goals. This is my favorite prop. It's even money. I don't understand it. In 12 of 13 games, he has gone over 1.5. The Saints are allowing the second highest field goal attempts in the league. so far this year at 3.4. McPherson, I believe, has also attempted at least 2 field goals in 12 of his last 13 games too. I'm going to keep riding that one. I've got another one in my back pocket. I'll get to that in just a second. Let's get a couple props from you.
So far this year, 9-9. Haven't been keeping track of, the plus odds. I would like to think we're doing a little better. Coming off,
you throw a couple pluses in there.
So yeah, we got a little bit going for us. We're not taking just a stone cold faves every single week. And I got a big underdog this one. Joe Mixon, 0 for 7 on rush attempts, scoring touchdowns inside the 5-yard line this season. I am willing to gamble that it is more unlucky than him or this Bengals offense all of a sudden being terrible at football. Joe Mixon, 2+ touchdowns, plus 410 at Caesars. Sign me up for that. And a game where, again, I saw the pace problems, but I just think, hey, we saw the Saints and Seahawks shootout last week. I don't think that this Saints defense is quite as good as past years. Marshawn Lattimore is banged up as well. I'm sure we'll be talking about Jamar Chase here when we get to our cash and GPP discussion. But again, Joe Mixon has been the feature bell cow. More touches than any running back in the NFL this season. Last week, we did finally see that yards per carry start to move in the right direction. I just think that there are going to be, some just games coming up where we're going to see Joe Mixon remind everyone why we drafted him as a top 10 running back in season long in the first place. Also, we'll be taking the under on Ezekiel Elliott, 70.5 rushing and receiving yards. Britt, Zeke is on pace this year to catch 17 passes, 1 per game. That's what we joke about George Kittle being a left tackle. Zeke is the left tackle. Like, he's the one that's really not getting any chances to catch the ball these days, whether he's blocking or Tony Pollard just taking over for him. So efficiency has been the worst of his career, and the Cowboys offensive line has been the worst of his career. So I don't mean to hang all this against Zeke, but again, 70.5 rushing and receiving yards in a game I expect the Cowboys to trail and just not be all that efficient with all their opportunities. Happy to take that. You can get it at -115 over at PointsBet. And then 2 overs. George Kittle over just 40.5 receiving yards, man. If you just look at Kittle throughout his career, like, this is such a line that's only looking at the last 3 weeks instead of the fact that, hey, it's George freaking Kittle, and we shouldn't just purely be focusing on these last 3 weeks. I mean, Kittle, just receiving yards per game throughout his career since 2018, 86, 75, 79. Last year he was at 65. And yeah, this year he's at 33. So it's unfortunate that he's going down, but do we really think George Kittle is no longer George Kittle? I am happy to take that over at only -114 juice over at Fanduel. And finally, Rondale Moore over 43.5 receiving yards at DraftKings. You can get that for -120. We kind of talked about it last week, Britt. We were a little hesitant to go to Rondale and cash in tournaments. It was more reasonable, but we didn't know if he was going to take that full-on slot role over Greg Dortch. Now we do. AJ Green was back last week. I know it's sad that we have to worry about how AJ Green factors in this equation, but we do. And Rondale was still the featured full-time slot receiver going up against the Seahawks defense, where explosive pass play rate, yards per attempt, QB rating, touchdown rate allowed, bottom 2 defense in the entire league against slot wide receivers. So Rondale Moore over 43.5 receiving yards, Kittle over 40.5, Zeke under 70.5, Joe Mixon 2 touchdowns. Great day to be great.
Yeah, I'm glad we're on the same page this week. I was already on Kittle and Moore before I even saw the show sheet.
Woo.
I might say something I'm not supposed to say, but we're going to try to get through the show sheet. There we go. And I'm going to go, this might be my favorite prop of the week, and it hinges on Damian Harris not playing. So let's go just real quick for the people. This Damian Harris, limited practice. Mac Jones last week, right? And even a little bit this week is practicing. Damian Harris ain't going to play this week, right?
It's Jonnu Smith too. Like, he was limited last week, but we've already gotten news. Both these guys are referred to as week to week. So it's one of those things where, again, I am firmly expecting Damian Harris to miss at least this week.
Yeah. So one of my favorite props this week is Ramondre Stevenson. He's +105 to score a touchdown at DraftKings. The other books have this at like -140, -160. I think there was a -170 out there. And DraftKings was letting me bet this at +105. This was yesterday. I put it up on Scores and Odds as well. He's going to be the lead guy. We've already seen what he can do in a lead role. This is against Cleveland, who can't stop anybody against the ground right now and gives up a bunch of rushing touchdowns. I don't understand how this can be a plus odds bet on DraftKings. So that's one of my favorite of the week right now.
Also, Britt, they signed Kevin Harris from their practice squad up from their active roster yesterday. So that's just another sign. Again, we usually see that on Saturdays, and we can really tell.
I want to note right now, I'm going to some prop sites. Cam Akers is not going to play this Sunday. So go to your favorite sportsbook / prop site right now.
What? He get hurt?
And find some Darrell Henderson props. and
What happened?
start
Oh
smashing those
my
in.
gosh.
I don't know. I just
They're working through some things.
yeah, with some acres.
It's
So
not injury related. What the
yeah,
hell,
so go
man?
get
Yeah,
some
pound
Henderson
the
props.
Henderson
I
ones.
just got a couple rush yard props on. So happy.
Oh shit. Yeah. And go pick up Daryl Henderson if you can. I gotta get him in
Yeah,
a league.
go get that right now. So good time to be watching the show live.
Thank you, Britt.
Yep.
My
Let's
friends, God, my friends always hate when I'm in their fantasy league, so I just get the news 5 minutes in front of them, and then after I get the news, I like let them know, like, "Hey guys, go pick this guy up. Don't bother in our league, but you know."
But any other league you're in, you can go get it.
Exactly.
All right, so that was some of our favorite prop bets, some of our favorite spread bets. If you want access to at least mine and a lot of the other people here on RotoGrinders, I think our team is up close to 50 units, whatever you want to classify as a particular unit. If you had followed all of our scores and odd teams NFL bets this year, you would be swimming in units. You can get that over at Scores and Odds. That is a premium subscription. If you just want to get access, if you want to know which site has the best line for a Ramondre Stevenson touchdown and about 3 touches on your phone or a couple clicks on your internet, you will be able to find that out. That DraftKings had the best line for that, like I previously said, for the low price of $3.50. So make sure to go check that out over on Scores and Odds. Let's jump into DFS. It's at least in the quarterback position. We've got this Buffalo, Kansas City game. There's 2 quarterbacks. It's Josh Allen. It's Patrick Mahomes. I've heard they're good. I think, at least from a cash game perspective, we usually break down cash game and some of our GPP plays. The cash games on DraftKings this week are going to be pretty similar, right? You've got, I think Josh Allen is clearly the quarterback most people are going to be playing. If the running back injury news holds true, we're going to have 3 or 4 basically running backs everybody's going to be on. Tyler Lockett's too cheap at the wide receiver position. Pick a tight end, pick a defense. That's where some of the, gamesmanship might come from. A Fanduel is a little tougher, and tournaments on DraftKings, there's always a lot of game theory involved. But at least from the cash game perspective, it's Josh Allen this week. There's no way I'm not playing this dude against Kansas City. He needs to be priced much higher than he is, considering the fact of what he scores every week.
No, and we can get up to him this week. I mean, usually that's just what it comes down to. We don't have like the actual salary left to go up and get there, but I mean, the amount of money we can save at running back, I mean, that's just the thing, man. Like, there's 3 such clear-cut running backs, and I guess Daryl Henderson is now going to kind of throw a little bit of a wrench into this, but even then, man, like, we'll see if Kyron Williams does get activated off IR. They did elevate Jake Funk, so it could still, like, I would just say out of these, Kenneth Walker, Ramondre Stevenson, and Benjamin, I would still favor not only their workloads, but honestly, those offenses over what Henderson is dealing with the Rams. So I just think from a straight up raw projection standpoint, Henderson will still be out of the picture. So with that in mind, man, again, we're talking about the whole cash game kind of lineup here. We can get up to Josh Allen because we don't have to spend up at those running back spots or at tight end or even at one of the wide receiver spots with Rondale Moore. So I was able to squeeze Josh in my cash game shell without making any sort of like notable downgrades. And I just don't see any reason to go less, man. 5 top 5 quarterback finishes to start the season. Like, we saw the one game against the Dolphins where, the offense was a little bit out of sorts. They didn't even score 20 points on them. And what Josh Allen do? He still threw for 400 yards and he runs for like another 60 or 70. Like, even when this dude isn't all that efficient, he has the most fantasy friendly role at quarterback we've ever seen. It's the most pass happy offense in the league. And he's such a freaking alien with what he can do running the football that we always have that floor for us. So, yep. This is the week. Get up to Josh Allen. Stack him with Stephon Diggs. Great day to be great.
Or Gabe Davis, to that Gabe Davis guy. 3 receptions, 5,000 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That's what I'm calling for him again this week. So tournaments, I think the guy, like, if you're looking for a player that can keep up with a Josh Allen or a Patrick Mahomes, especially this week, I think you need a quarterback that can run the ball a little bit. I mean, Tom Brady could probably get there from the pocket, but he's going to need 350 and at least 3 touchdowns and not have Allen or Mahomes go nuclear, or maybe 4 touchdowns from a guy like Brady. I'm looking at Lamar Jackson, who we currently have projected, let's see here, as the 5th highest owned quarterback behind Allen, Geno, Tom Brady, and Mahomes. So he's coming in around 6.5% as it stands on a Friday. I don't know if I am going to hope that I can keep pace with Josh Allen. I need some upside. I think Lamar gives me that. I think maybe a Kyler Murray could possibly give it to me. I need these dual threat quarterbacks this week in tournaments. I would have a very narrow field.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm going Tom Brady, Kirk Cousins as my
Were you just picking up Darrell Henderson?
Yeah, exactly. Man. I'm all over this right now. I got my friends already yelling at me. So, look, man, he's gonna be chalky in a hurry here. But yeah, so GPP quarterbacks again. Tom Brady going with Evans and probably Chris Godwin. So the Godwin snaps and routes were down last week, but like even Greg Allman, the Athletics ace beat reporter for Tampa Bay, like he's even come out and said during that experience, like, yeah, it's a situation where they were absolutely killing them in that matchup. And like, why would they be trying to just overload Godwin with all those extra opportunities? So there wasn't a new injury that happened the week before when they were in comeback mode against the Chiefs. Godwin was out there playing his usual full-time role. So I don't disagree with, having Evans a little bit ahead of Godwin. I do have him one spot ahead just in my raw season-long rankings, but why not both? Again, Brady's going to throw the ball 52 times, and Leonard Fournette's out there getting a bunch of those as well. So I think there are some fun, different Tampa Bay stacks because this is a matchup, man. You can bring it back pretty easily with just, Deontay or George Pickens or just one of those guys. And I just think everyone's so focused, rightly so, on Bills Chiefs that we have a chance to get that Tom Brady passing game at a discount, and we know the volume is there. On the Minnesota Vikings side of things, this Miami Dolphins defense, bottom 5 in almost any passing metric you want to look at this year, and they continue to be banged up. Xavier Howard is allegedly going to be playing through this groin issue, but their other starting cornerback, Byron Jones, is still on the PUP list with that Achilles issue. So they've been bad, they're hurt, and now Justin Jefferson is coming to town. So Adam Thielen, someone where he hasn't gone 3 straight regular season games without scoring a touchdown, injuries notwithstanding, since 2018. That man's due. Kirk Cousins still hasn't gone for 300 yards or 3 touchdowns. He's due. Everything's coming into place for this Vikings offense to blow up against the Dolphins this week.
All right, let's go to the running back position. So let's hash this out real quick here. We were looking at a trio of Ramondre Stevenson with Damian Harris likely out. We've got Kenneth Walker. We've got Eno Benjamin, who looks like he's going to have basically the workload to himself today. Insert Darrell Henderson into the mix. Who's the odd man out?
Henderson. I think Henderson's the odd man out. The offense has clearly been the worst of the group. They're a terrible offense. You could argue, here's the thing. Cam Akers is out of the picture. Akers was supplanting Henderson to an extent with this happening. I think Henderson will be the lead guy, but this backfield hasn't been anything like what we're used to in Los Angeles this year. The problem with the Rams, it hasn't been like Akers and Henderson haven't been great by any stretch. They haven't been good, but their workloads have been brutal. Both these guys, man, their expected PPR points on the season, they're RB4s. It's not like they've been getting 20 touches a game and not making anything out of it. Really, it's just been tough. So if we can combine those two just into Henderson, that'd be great. I'm just worried like why they kind of didn't do that already if they were willing to really feature Henderson. So maybe we'll get some more information coming out. Again, if Kyren Williams is going to be activated, it wouldn't completely throw me off. He's a 5th round pick. He's I think a pretty one-dimensional scat back type of player. And Henderson's the one that usually trust on the passing downs in the first place. So this is like a poor man's version, I think, Britt, of like what the Browns have there, where it's just like you have an early down back and then you have more of a primary pass down back. Henderson is the primary pass down back. So it's more reasonable to expect him to take the early down work than it is for like Kyren Williams to take away the pass down work that already belongs to Henderson. So for me, it's Eno, Stevenson, and Kenneth Walker, because like, who do we want to get up to otherwise? That's the thing. Like, is Henderson even cheaper to these guys? Like, I just don't see the upside of going away from them to a Henderson. If anything, we should just be happy this is happening, because I think it's going to just take down the general ownership for all these guys.
Yeah, the ownership is going to be very high. So Henderson on DraftKings at least is the low price of $5,100. So he's a little bit higher than Eno and a little bit lower than the other two. I think I'm not wishing to play Darrell Henderson at 51. If we didn't have these other guys, I most certainly would be.
Oh, yeah, but we don't need to.
Yeah, I don't think we need to. You have a favorite of Ramondre, Walker, and Eno. Like if you had one you had to single out, like you're more apt to be maybe overweight on in a tournament this week?
I would go with I think Eno of them all, believe it or not. And I haven't really been someone to believe in Eno all that much over the years. But when we take Connor and Darrell Williams out of the picture, I mean, looking at these offenses, the Patriots, look, I saw Stevenson get every single snap last week. That was because he was the only running back left. So Pierre Strong and Kevin Harris are going to be active. And maybe Stevenson does come back more to earth as like a 50-60% snap guy while still leading the way. Kenneth Walker, similar thing where we aren't positive that he's going to have that 3-down role. It could be a situation where DJ Dallas is far more involved than we're expecting, particularly on passing downs, if they end up falling behind in this game. So, it's not, I'm not saying that he necessarily is this, much more complete 3-down back than those guys, but one of the good studies I did this offseason, amongst many, I like to think, Britt, but one of them that, I really have been referring back a lot just with different situations like this. There's only so many coaches that are ever willing and have ever been willing to give their featured starting running back these true 80-90% workhorse roles. And Cliff Kingsbury and the Cardinals very much has been one of those. David Johnson, Kenyon Drake, Chase Edmonds, James Conner, all these guys, when they've gotten the chance over the years to be the healthy feature back, like they're not even playing 60% snaps, man. It's legit like 80, 90, barely ever leaving the field. So I think Eno has that possibility where out of all these guys, I'm least concerned about either a positive or negative game script taking them off the field.
All right. For tournaments, what else are we looking at the running back position? Because if you don't play Stevenson, Eno, or Kenneth Walker, you're looking at basically a sub 13% owned running back in large field tournaments. I mean, you're able to get your pick of whoever you want at reasonable ownership or even pretty low ownership. Who are some targets you might want to look at this week?
Yeah, again, just going off these chalky guys is going to be the pretty easy move just to help differentiate things for you. So again, when we kind of look back at, hey, what's the general lineup going to look like? What can we do? Just kind of differentiate that. And just by lineup construction be different. And we'll probably be paying up at the position this week, going and getting your McCaffreys and your Nick Chubbs and the guys that you don't need to spend up all that much money for, but we still know have the potential to break, a slate each and every week. So I will say other than that, Cam Akers is now not on my list because he's not going to play football, but was feeling pretty good about that one earlier. So with that said, talked for a minute about the KC Buffalo matchup. Hey, it's legal for those running backs to get some of the touchdowns. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 6.3K. We don't like it, man, but the dude has two touchdown upside each and every week, and we've already seen that on occasion this year. And also Devin Singletary. Look, he's still the featured running back in Buffalo. Last week, they were absolutely annihilating the Steelers. Josh Allen had a 14-yard target def, and when they get up by 30, they don't keep him out there. They just let James Cook, run his heart out. So Devin Singletary, if this is going to be a close game, we could see what we saw in weeks 3 and week 4, and that is a true every down running back in arguably the NFL's single best offense. So just 5.9K. Again, people I think are looking way more into the week 5 dud than the back-to-back really good top 20 performances he had in weeks 3 and 4. I love the bounce back potential for Devin Singletary. It's just nice leverage off of all these high owned Bills guys. And then finally, Joe Mixon, 6.9K, mentioned the 2 touchdown bet earlier. So yeah, again, just, trying to buy more into the guys that we know are getting the usage. They've just been a little bit unlucky so far.
Singletary currently through RotoGrinders projected ownership just over 5% owned on the large Sunday slate. I'm going to throw Breece Hall. I'm going back to the well I had his prop bet last week. I had him on my Draftkings cash team. I believe in him so much, but I like him for a tournament. He's going to go a little bit under owned. And if you are like me, I guess this is me thinking the Jets might have more of a chance than the spread implies in this one. I could take Breece Hall in a GPP. He is solidifying himself as the workhorse running back for that Jets offense. Explosive playmaker. And then, of course, Lenny Fournette. We've got him right around 10%. That's right. A guy who just posted a GPP winning week last week, and no one's going to want to play him this week against Pittsburgh. I mean, this is like too good to be true, and it's going to give you a little bit of a different roster construction. So I think we can go to Lenny and maybe hope that game stays a little closer, but I don't know. I'm thinking about maybe betting the Buccaneers here. I think they might just completely steamroll Pittsburgh.
And this would be a unique situation where if you wanted to go Brady, Evans, Fournette, like it's fine, man. If you look at it, these last 2 weeks, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans have combined for 34 targets. Leonard Fournette and Rashad White have combined for 27. So if you want a quarterback out there, it's really going to feed his running back in the passing game. It most certainly is Tom Brady.
Yeah, I want to throw the Mike Evans prop bet was like 62 yards against Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh, they just allow everyone to get 100 yards against them through the air. So that was one of the first bets I made this week. Didn't put it on the show sheet, but that is, I make so many bets I sort of forget about them, but that popped into my head. All right, let's go to wide receiver. We've got a couple, I think, gimmies on DraftKings. We've got Tyler Lockett. They're just like, oh, you had this huge game? We'll just keep you at the same price. No problem. So he's way too cheap on DraftKings. And then you've got Rondale Moore, who you mentioned on the bet, who you mix those two in with take your pick of any wide receiver. This is where lineup construction is basically going to differ a little bit in cash games. Who is your third wide receiver? There's a couple of options. You could go double Seattle wide receiver if you just wanted all of the Seattle passing game. No, you can get up to a Cooper Kupp if you wanted to do something like that. You can make lineups like that. But basically, that third wide receiver is sort of where people will be getting different this week. Who are a couple of your favorite third wide receivers?
I'm surprised this Lockett hammy isn't pulling more people off this, man. I don't want anything to do with that this week. I still think that this passing game, while we have seen it still be way better. I mean, look, Lockett's a boomer bust wide receiver. We've seen that for how many years? And yeah, he boomed last week and he has been fantastic. This whole Seattle passing game has been great. I just don't love the idea of having the, lead early down running back and Kenneth Walker in the same lineup now as a banged up version of Tyler Lockett. I don't think we need to with some of the salary saving we can get elsewhere. So I'm fine going with Rondale Moore, just 4.2K, talked already about his full-time role. The matchup against the Seattle slot defense, again, all things pointing up for Rondale. And from there, man, give me that Josh Allen stack with Stephon Diggs. I don't need to get quite all the way up to Cooper Kupp. And honestly, man, Jamar Chase at 7.7K with no T. Higgins. Again, I think it's just a situation where look at what we did last year. We let a small sample size with Jamar Chase distract us from the fact that he's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, and him and that Burrow connection. How many times do we need to really doubt it before we need to get back on the train? So doesn't sound like T. Higgins is going to be out there. And yeah, I get it. It's been a little bit disappointing for him, but he's still going out there and making some big plays. And I want to try to be ahead of the curve, in terms of getting right back on track with Chase. So if Marshawn Lattimore is going to be out too for the Saints, that really is huge for Chase. I'm not afraid to go to the well with someone that, again, he's been missing, but even last week, man, 7 catches for 50 yards on a full PPR site like DraftKings. The Bengals have shown a willingness, particularly with Higgins out of the lineup, to make Chase this lower A-dot guy, which I get it. It's not as we'd prefer to watch him catch 60-yard touchdowns down the sideline every single play, but I really don't think the floor is as low for Jamar Chase as we might think when T. Higgins is out.
A couple tournament spots I'm eyeing. We've got Hollywood Brown is sort of a little bit of leverage off of Rondale Moore. If you're saving money, I think Rondale Moore might end up being higher owned than Hollywood Brown. So he's a way to get leverage off of Moore, and even Eno Benjamin in that game, who's also going to be pretty popular. So you can take a look at that from a tournament perspective. A couple other players that I'm looking at would be, let's see, we've got Jacoby Myers. He's your leverage off Ramondre Stevenson, and he can go ham in any single game. He's getting the ball a little bit deeper down the field. He's catching a couple of touchdowns, and he's getting a ton of volume right now. So he's interesting just to get away from the Ramondre Stevenson GPP ownership. And then if Godwin's going to be higher owned, I'm all about Mike Evans. Absolutely love him in a tournament. I'm looking on RotoGrinders right now. We have Mike Evans projected at 9% owned. If you're getting that low of ownership from a guy who could easily have 102 touchdowns against the Steelers defense, absolutely love a guy like Mike Evans. And me a little, I don't know if it's really leverage off of Godwin. Godwin currently coming in at 14% ownership. I'll take Evans over Godwin any day of the week right now, expecting a big game out of him.
Would also note, hey, Brit, it's 2022. It's not illegal for Gabriel Davis to have back-to-back boom weeks. That's who he is. Like he was put on this planet to be a GPP, just consistent play. So yeah, if he booms, you have a very good chance of, being in the top 10% of lineups that actually have a chance of winning the damn thing. And if he doesn't, okay, that's exactly what we're here for, first or last man. So mentioned the Kirk Cousins with Jefferson, with Thielen, and also Brady, Godwin, and Evans, man. I don't think we need to overthink it too much there, but I hear you on Evans over Godwin straight up. up. We'll also note that, let's not completely forget about these Jaguars wide receivers. It was interesting when they played in week 2 against the Colts. The Colts took, ace cover corner Stephon Gilmore and put him on Marvin Jones. I think more so because they used Zay Jones and Christian Kirk in the slot far more than Marvin, and just a lot of these cornerbacks, Gilmore, Darius Slay, pretty much all the shadow corners, they don't make a big time habit of moving inside the slot. So Christian Kirk had 2 touchdowns that game. I wouldn't be shocked if he does get back on track. We even had, the squeaky wheel gets the grease narrative going on with Doug Peterson saying he's someone that should be getting 9, 10, 11 targets every single week. And Zay Jones at 4.2K, man. I mean, remember, that was a bargain when we saw it a couple of weeks ago based on everything he'd been doing in his usage. And he got hurt, and then we had to kind of get off it, and then we weren't sure how available he was going to be coming back. But he really is back to that full-time role, and 4.2K for someone that, again, we saw in weeks 2 and 3 really possessed some upside. I'm fine to get there with that. And then finally, just Tyler Boyd at 5.1K if T. Higgins is out. Really take a long look at that, because I think earlier this year, even with Higgins, I think it was when Higgins ended up playing, but we thought he might be out. Like, Boyd wasn't getting that big time ownership bump. And when you do look at his rookie season, or not his rookie season, Burrow's rookie season, when Chase obviously wasn't in the picture yet, Boyd was putting up wide receiver 1 numbers really throughout that year until Burrow got hurt. And then last year, in the couple of games that Higgins missed, we again saw Joe Burrow really lean in to Tyler Boyd. So it's why backup wide receivers, we can't trust them the same way as handcuffs. Like, if you do want to go dumpster diving, the other Mike Thomas on the Bengals, yeah, he'll get some targets, but I think more than anything, man, Burrow's just going to center in more and more on Boyd, Chase, and Hayden Hurst if we do see Higgins miss this one.
All right, let's go to tight end. From the cash game side, it's basically a spender save. You've got Mark Andrews or Travis Kelce. I think I'm on team Andrews for this one. Although it's pretty tough to go against Kelce in that Bills game. Was that the most fantasy points ever scored from a player with 27 yards, or the least fantasy points ever scored from a player with 4 touchdowns?
Dude, just to put the spotlight on me, I had 3 freaking matchups where I was going into Monday night. I was up 15 to like 20 points, all of them only facing Kelce. And 0-3 on those.
Bad luck on that one. Who would you prefer? Do you want Andrews or do you want Travis Kelce this week?
Side note,
Andrews is $800 less.
I'm not probably even going up that high. I would probably Andrews. I will say, though, I did get slightly lucky on my bad beat because I was planning on betting Kelce's over receiving yards as an emotional hedge. So those are the real losers from last Monday night.
I think we learned we bet the touchdowns as the emotional hedge.
You bet the touchdowns. Absolutely there. So this week, let's go. Fuck the Yankees. All right. On the cash side of things, Hunter Henry at 3.1K, man, barely left the field last week with Jonnu Smith out. I think it's the same thing as Damon Harris. These guys are week to week. They have them stand off inside in practice, and they call it a limited practice. So just 3.1K. I do think Hunter Henry, again, I don't have a single dollar left in my cash game build right now, so I am comfortable getting him. If we are going to see Jonnu come back in cash, you can go cheaper. If we want to get into the weeds here, Britt, we haven't been doing as much this year like we did last year, but Zach Gentry, 2.6K, Pittsburgh Steelers tight end 1, if Pat Freiermuth is indeed going to miss this one with the concussion. So I do think that Gentry, hey, he's tall, Brit, and he's going to play almost every single snap. So we got those 2 things going for us. He might have played basketball at some point in his life. And hey, with this Pittsburgh Steelers offense, fully expecting them to get blown out by the Buccaneers, which means they're probably going to have to pass the ball a ton, just like they really have the last 6 quarters with Kenny Pickett under center. So those would be the cash calls. GPP, I think it gets more interesting. I mean, come on. If it's not George Kittle week this week, when is it going to happen? And maybe next week, but I really do think it could be this week. I mentioned it, when we were going through the props, this Falcons defense being bottom 3, just about everything against tight ends. And yeah, man, just 5.1K is such a slap in the face there. And final note would be David Njoku at 4K. Just surprised to not see the projected ownership higher. I mean, do we just give Bill Belichick this, like, he shuts down the number 1 option at every single position respect? Like, what is it, man? Is it he's going to stop Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper, and David Njoku this whole game just because he's Bill Belichick? I don't really think so. And you look at the Patriots against tight ends this year, they've been average. They've been fine. I mean, I'm not saying they're a bad defense by any stretch, but if anything, I would expect them to focus their efforts on Amari Cooper, probably leading to more David Njoku like we've seen over these past 3-4 weeks.
All right, I'm going to throw in also Tyler Higbee, the least exciting cash game play, but with double-digit targets. He's got 24 targets over the past 2 weeks. If you're just looking for a floor of receptions and a few yards, I think he's interesting too. Just a guy who probably won't do you wrong, won't win you the week, but at least you'll get some points at the position. That's going to wrap it up for the Week 6 edition of the Pro Football Focus Fantasy Show here on RotoGrinders. As always, thanks to all of you for watching. Click that like button on the YouTube on the way out. Rate a review. If you're listening on the podcast, we would greatly appreciate it. Other than that, thanks for watching, listening. He's Ian, I'm Britt, and we out, y'all.